Hi guys, welcome to Tonality. The first step in color correction is correcting the tonality. The tonality is about making sure the blacks are really black. So whatever is supposed to be black in your video, you set it to 100% black, and setting the whites to real whites. For example, if you look at the door here, it might not look like 100% white. You need to set it to white. So setting the tonalities is ensuring that blacks and whites are real blacks and whites. For this you will use the waveform, but this waveform is somehow very complicated. Usually we don't use this one. If you come to your wrench over here, you have a waveform type. Instead of using the RGB and see all the colors, we want to see the luma. So now the waveform here is showing you the distribution of the colors in general, and it's showing you how much whites you have and blacks. Let me show you how it works. First of all, let's come to the wrench and close the vector scope. We'll see it later, and close the RGB parade. Okay, then I'm gonna take the lumetri scope and drop it under the video, just like this. Then I'm gonna make it smaller here and take this one down. We don't need it. And we take this one down. Okay. Now we're cool a bit. Notice what's happening here. The way you read the lumetri scope waveform and the RGB parade is from left to right and from up to down. Okay, from left to right, it will show you exactly the colors or the tonality within your video from left to right. You can see here, for example, exactly you have the pole, which has some whites on one side and some dark on the left side, and you can see it just over here. On this side here, you can see the door that is very white. So actually, from left, it will show you the left side of the video, and the right side of the video. As simple as this. Now, on the bottom here, you have your blacks or your shallows. On the top, you have your whites or your highlights. In the middle, you have your midtones, meaning that is not 100% whites or blacks. So now we want to adjust the tonality. The way to adjust the tonality is to use the basic correction. Let's go back to our workspace here, the color workspace, and reset it. Okay, we go back to normal. So now we use the basic correction to adjust the tonality. It's a bit hard for me to do a good color correction and explain this for you, because I will need to exaggerate a bit so you see, the contrast. Cool. I will start with the blacks down there, the easiest. These are your blacks over here, and you notice there are very many pixels of blacks that are not really blacks. They are around, lighter than blacks. So let's click on blacks and drag to give it a positive values. Now notice what's happening here. The blacks are going up, meaning less pixels are getting 100% black. Okay, if you go negative, then you notice the graph is going down. Don't look at the image at all. You notice that the blacks are coming down. Okay, in the positive values, you were lifting the blacks. Here, you were taking down the blacks. Here you are. Okay, so if you go down just like this, that's very good now. Not much of the pixels are hitting 100% black. And you can see that over here, for example, you can see how the blacks have been affected. But if you go more, notice how you are going to start crashing the blacks. Here you are. That's a bit exaggerated. And you start losing texture, and you start losing information here. You cannot see. Everything has become black. So you should always try to be moderate. Not go too low. That is the blacks at 10. And not to go too high, crushing them. Just put them over here. Okay, I'm cool here. I don't want to lose any information or any details from this side. Now, if you go a little bit more, let's say, okay, now I'm getting more blacks, but you notice I lost some information. This is a matter of choice, and you will talk to your director and you talk to the video guys and decide exactly what you want. Cool. Let's go now to the whites. Now, whites will operate exactly the same. A positive value, you're lifting the whites. So you notice more pixels are getting whiter. If you look at this one, and notice also you are lifting a bit your midtones. Not much, but a bit. So notice what's happening here. In After Effects, you need to be calm a bit and give it some time. It doesn't work like Premiere Pro. It's not as speedy as Premiere Pro. Now I put the whites. I think it's okay. I look at the image. I don't see much, but the waveform here is showing me you're good. So if I put more whites, I lift them more, you notice also I'm crashing the whites and I lost a lot of information here where too many pixels became white. As simple as this. I can reset this one, right click and reset, and take my whites a bit up. Cool. So we are over here now. We're happy that we have sped them. I will reset this one to show you how contrast will work. You have highlights and shadows. These are your shadows on the bottom over here, and these are your highlights, and in the middle there are midtones like we said. If you use contrast, it will lift your highlights and also will take down your shadows. Notice what's happening. Okay, we're working with the highlights and the shadows. We're not working with the black and white. Notice that it doesn't go up. Whatever value I give it, it's not gonna go up 100%. It's stuck at 150. So the contrast will take at the same time your highlights and your shadows. Fine. But if you don't want to use both of them at the same time, you know, they are almost symmetric, you can use your highlights, you lift your whites, and notice also more of the mid-tone is coming up. You see the difference here between highlights and whites. Okay, I will never reach on top. I'm at the maximum here. It will not go top. So if you want to continue working, you come to the whites and lift them up. But now, there is something important that I would like you to notice here. If I lift the highlights, okay, notice there is a kind of compression. This is becoming thinner. I'm starting to lose a lot of details here. Too many pixels are becoming the same whites or the same highlights. You don't want to do that. Okay, and the same for the shadows. If I click and take it down, you notice the shadows are coming down, but they're not going down like the blacks. Now I'm starting to kill the image. There are too many pixels that are black. Here you are now at the maximum. Now you can come and play with the contrast again, but of course you will be exaggerating. It depends also on the video. Sometimes it works. I will reset the whole thing, and the way I start working is to click on the auto. Now auto will give me an indication here. Okay, you need to hide your whites and take down your blacks. I will continue with this one until I get a result that I really want. Here you are. That's cool for me here. And I will take the whites up. Okay. If I want to get more highlights, I will take them up a bit. Okay, not to compress them. And then I will take the shadows a bit down. Okay. Now we are a bit cool. Maybe you readjust your blacks. Okay, not too much, just over here. So the image looks quite nice. Let's look at the basic correction here. If you deactivate, it was like this, and now that is after. Not bad at all. Cool. So this is how you use the waveform. I'm talking in terms of how to use it and its effect on the tonality. I would like you to go and work on it and see exactly what you can come up with. Actually, if you note here, there is no 100% right and 100% wrong. You can do your best, and depending on your video and depending on what you want, you can adjust your colors. But actually, we achieved something, you know, it's much better already. Cool. Thank you very much for listening. And in the next lecture, we start with the RGB parade.